Audio Jungle.
What's up, guys? Mike Penta here with the Mind Gym Podcast, and today I have my guest, Jason Leiden from CrossFit Milford and Milford Athletics, correct?
Correct.
I'm pretty excited to have Jay on the show. When I first started CrossFit, Jay was already a box owner and pretty relevant in the CrossFit community, and I was able to use things that he was doing to start developing my programs and get my gym, the way I wanted to go based off of how he was doing things. So, Jay and Rob Orlando and a couple of those guys, they're pretty relevant in the CrossFit community. They've done a lot. They were in the games. They had teams in the games. And for me, it was awesome now it's awesome to be able to meet with him and talk with him on the podcast, because I was able to kind of model the beginnings of New London CrossFit using what Jay was doing and to build my programs in my community. So welcome, Jay. I'm glad he's on the show. We're going to talk a little bit today about his backstory in fitness. We're going to talk a little bit about CrossFit Milford, Power Monkey Fitness, a camp that he works with, and working with games athletes, regionals athletes, and back in the day, open athletes. I mean, he's worked with every single athlete in CrossFit, from the person who's walked through the door, never worked out before, to the person who's, made it to the CrossFit Games. We're going to talk about how those people tick and how to work with different individuals, and we'll go from there. So, Jay, thank you.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's been pretty, like I said, for me, I've known Jay for a long time, but we've never really sat down and talked very much. So it's pretty awesome to get you on this show, and now I can learn a little bit more about how you started in working with games athletes. Like I said in the beginning, you don't know this, but me and my old business partner, we just talked about this before. When I started CrossFit, I knew nothing about CrossFit. I was an operations manager for another fitness center. One of my personal trainers was already talking to me about how he was going to start this program called CrossFit, and I was like, what the hell is that? He already had money involved in it, so I was like, I'll throw in some money and we'll get this thing rolling. So we opened up a business. I knew nothing. So I used you and, like I said, Rob Orlando, and kind of used what you guys were doing to build my programs, and so I appreciate that. You didn't know that, but
that's awesome. Yeah, you're killing it, man. You're all over the place. You're doing tons of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it grew like everything else. Like CrossFit has grown, I've grown, and it's been pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But
I actually have a funny story about you. I think I remember, like, one of the first times I really kind of got to know you. We were doing an opens workout at Shoreline CrossFit when Shoreline first moved into their new spot. So this might have been like 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember you were judging, and it was the deadlift, box jump, push-up workout or something like that. And I remember you were judging someone's doing push-ups, and you were like so intense. On the floor, yelling at them. I was like, this fucking guy is intense. He's just judging. And then he was like, yeah, that's Mike. And I was like, oh, that's Mike. I was like, oh. So it was this kind of funny story of how your intensity and your passion for fitness and for CrossFit and for helping others really showed, like, just being a judge. You're judging something you never knew.
Yeah,
and I've seen that in you kind of carry over with your podcast and all the stuff you're doing in New London, and it's just awesome to see.
Yeah, no, thank you. And like I said, that all stemmed from, again, all I knew from CrossFit is that it was just like out of control, intense, people running, yelling, screaming, and I wanted to be a part of that. And so, I mean, that's awesome that you can remember that. But I do remember that now, because I was laying on the floor actually screaming at somebody.
Yeah. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's intensity right there.
So talk about your backstory, which is actually crazy, because I started, believe it or not, for my viewers who don't know, I started 15 years ago as a personal trainer down the road here. So Milford is where I actually started training.
No way.
At Valley Total Fitness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started with Rob Fulton. I think he owns Fulton's Fitness
Fulton's Fitness.
So
he's like a big bodybuilding guy.
Yeah. And I actually did 2 shows, like bodybuilding shows. Another thing that people probably don't know.
We got to dig up those pictures.
Oh my God! You know what? I have
what
pictures.
What color Speedo?
It was blue. And what's even crazier to think about that is those pictures. My first show was when the first digital camera ever came out, and the fucking quality of the pictures were atrocious. Like, it was, I think it was like a 3 or 4 megapixel digital camera. Like you took the picture, then it was there. And I have those pictures, so I developed them somewhere.
I want to see them.
Yeah, I gotta find them somewhere. I think
beard or no beard?
What?
Beard or no beard?
No beard. I was like, clean shaven.
Nice fake tan.
Yeah. Oh, fake tan. I had pro tan on for 6 days straight. Laid in the tanning booth. Those were the glory days.
Phenomenal.
But no, that's how I started. I actually started right down the road here 15 years ago at Bally Total Fitness.
Awesome.
So speaking of that, like, what's your backstory? How'd you get into fitness, and what's your backstory? Fitness related or sports related?
Yeah. So I've always been in fitness. Everything I did growing up was basketball. My main purpose was to play basketball. So everything I did around that was...
I hope it was basketball. If you see the size, he's crouched over. I'm standing upright, and I'm not even close to his size.
Yeah, so everything for me was about basketball. And one thing that I was never the most talented, but I always somehow had a really, really exceptional work ethic. And I think one thing that helped with that was the crew that was around, so my support crew. So we had this group growing up that, we just played ball. Yeah. So I didn't worry about parties. I didn't worry about going out. I honestly never even had a girlfriend, because they always said, like, if you have a girlfriend, it's going to take away your athletic performance, right? So I would even stay with girls, and all we did was just play ball. So I was instilling this work ethic of just all the time work towards your goal and be passionate about what your goal is. So I started that route, and inside that route, I got really involved with fitness, with how to become a better basketball player and training, whether it's the jump soles from back in the day.
Yep.
Back squatting, kind of like back then it was like traditional bodybuilding stuff. We didn't have anybody telling us how to train differently, but it was still in the weight room. Then when I got to college, I majored in physical education and health, did lots of stuff with kinesiology and exercise science.
Nice.
And after that, I came to the crossroads, because back then there was no CrossFit. So, as you know, it was either you're going to work at like a Bally's Fitness or like a LA Fitness, or you're going to go to college and be a strength and conditioning coach. You'd have to go through like the master's program and an apprenticeship. So my professor at Eastern was from Ohio State. So I was going to either go to Ohio State and do master's in exercise science and start becoming a strength coach at a university, or I was going to try to play basketball overseas. So I chose to go play basketball overseas. I went to a couple camps. I was lucky enough to get an agent, went overseas. I was in Holland on the U.S. team, kind of touring to get contracts. So I got a contract, came back, was mowing my parents' lawn, and then put a lawnmower over my foot.
No way.
Yeah. So that's kind of like how my basketball career ended. This freak accident, I just kind of tripped. I fell back, pulled the lawnmower over my foot. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. Like, they thought I was going to have to amputate my toes. So at that point, that brought me to another crossroads. So I was like, all right, well, what am I going to do now? And at that point, there was still no such thing as like a garage gym. Yeah. It was like still like it was LA. It was like a major gym or a strength coach. And I was like, I'm not working at a LA Fitness. Like, I just couldn't see myself at that point, because I spent some time trying to get overseas, so I couldn't see myself kind of backtracking. Yep. And I was like, I can't go back to school. I was like, what am I going to do? I could have, but so I went into a few different fields. I went into like the financial industry, which I went in to be a teacher, and I didn't feel it. And I went in to the financial industry, and that I just want to pull my teeth out. For that, I was just kind of chasing the money at that point. I was young. I was like, I had no clue what I was doing. So I was like doing MMA. I was racing motorcycles. I was like in the financial industry. I was like trying to find something, right?
Something to do.
Yeah. So finally, thankfully, I found my wife, Jocelyn, and then a small gym was closing down in Milford. And I had this opportunity, and we had no kids. We had no money, but we had no kids, like nothing serious here, right? So I was like, all right, I'm going to figure out a way how to buy it. And then I'll at least we'll give ourselves like 3 years to try to develop something with what my passion is. And if it doesn't, well, at least I know I tried, right? Yeah. And I'll backtrack. So we did that. I bought like this 1,500 square foot spot. Thankfully, I think everything is like right place, right time. So another local gym actually closed down, which allowed me to jumpstart with some members. And we started going to there. And I was there for a year. And that's when I started hearing about CrossFit more. And in 2008 of November, I drove down to Virginia with a couple other people, and I did a seminar. And it's pretty cool because when I did that seminar, there was Greg Glassman was still coaching them. So wow. Glassman and Pat Sherwood were coaching my seminar. Wow. And at that seminar, because they were so far and few between, it was me, Ben Kelly, the Bergerons from CrossFit New England, Tanya Wagner and Josh Wagner. She won the games. Rudy from Outlaw was there at that seminar. So it was like this whole crew. Yeah, it was a pretty cool crew that kind of was at that seminar in Virginia. So I came back, and just like anybody that's pretty sold on it, just the enthusiasm, the intensity, the community of it, the passion to kind of get people better and fitter and healthier. So I switched I was at Underground 2, which is what my gym was called. I switched it over to CrossFit Milford at that point. And then from there, I think there's like 7 CrossFit gyms in the state at that point.
Yeah,
you know?
2008, right?
Yeah, 2008. So we're one of those, you know, and then at that point, it was really neat because it was so tight that it's like you knew everybody. So like every Friday, you know, myself, Rob Orlando, Dave Lipson, Sin Martinez, the Bergerons would come down. We'd all like get together and just start it was kind of like this underground kind of throwdown circle. So that's how I started with CrossFit Milford. And then from there, I just got wrapped up into, because that's kind of like what my passion was fitness and what I did in college, and it's what I've always focused on. So from there, it was just kind of like the wheels just started running with everything. And I would just listen and read anything I can get my hands on, talk to anybody I get my hands on, bring as many people to the gym as I could. Like Ripto was at my gym, John Wellborn was here, everybody, Bergener was up here.
And that's a big thing too, if you're a listener and you're a coach or you're a gym owner or whatever. But guys, swallow your pride and learn from people that know more than you. I try to tell people that, and I consult with a lot of gyms all the time, especially in my area, because you know they open up. I mean, you know how it is. They open up, you know, left and right now. But I tell them all the time, guys, swallow your pride. I actually offered my entire program. I told a kid because there was something tragic that happened at one of the gyms up the road from us. So one of the members took over the gym, knew nothing about programming, wasn't even CrossFit certified yet. He got certified so that he could take over the gym. And I was like, listen to me. You're going to hurt somebody probably. So to stop that from happening, take my entire program day to day and just use it. Or use my day's program from the day before. And he didn't do that. And he's about to suffer the consequences of that because another gym opened up down the road from him, another kind of a CrossFit and athletics like everybody's been doing. And his members are just slowly going over because the kid who opened up a gym, I programmed for personally. He's a good competitor. He's a good athlete. And he's starting to use those types of programming to program for his athletes. And it's not that my programming is the greatest in the world, but it's better than someone who's never been doing this before. Yeah. I've been doing this now for 8 years, just like you've been doing it for over 10 now. We know a lot more than those type of people. So you look for people who are already doing this in this industry for advice. And I tell people that all the time. Look for people who know more than you. Swallow your pride. It's okay. There's going to be someone out there that knows more than you about something. So swallow your pride and learn from them. You know, like I said, when I first started, I was already a personal trainer for, 6-7 years at the time, but I knew nothing about CrossFit. I looked to the people who knew about CrossFit and their programming to start to build, what I was doing in New London. So guys, if you could take any advice from that, just swallow your pride and seek out people who know more than you and learn from them because it'll help you out.
Yeah, and I think so I look at Dr. John DiMartino first stated, if your why is big enough, then how will take care of itself, right? Yep. So if what you're doing is a complete and true passion of yours, then how you're going to get better and improve or keep evolving. So I think I know Dave reads a ton of books. Yeah. I think I go for my goal is 2 or 3 a month, including audio tapes. So I'm pretty much always trying to read and learn because it's never, and you come to see there's tons of basics, but you get people's opinion, and the objective is to build your own kind of tool belt. So you get your own tool belt so big that then you have all these things to choose from. And then I'll even at that point, if I read something, and I think the coolest thing about the fitness industry, which you just kind of alluded to, is that you can talk to anybody and shoot anybody an email, and they're probably going to consult with you or be fine with you. I mean, one time, oh my goodness gracious, I shot somebody an email, Dan John, the Godfather saying this. Yeah. I shot Dan John an email.
Book. Love that book.
He's been around forever. Tons of publications. Hey man, can I consult with you? He's like, yeah, cool. I was like, whoa. I was like, all right, how much? He's like, I don't know, don't worry about it. Yeah. And I was like, there's no other place where you can consult people that are considered like the Godfathers or something, who've been around forever, worked with thousands and thousands of athletes. But yeah, I'll talk to you for an hour. Don't worry about it, So I think that's one thing I always do. One thing I'm always searching is something to read that I'm unfamiliar with, and then I try to consult with as many people as I can that aren't in CrossFit. Yeah. People who are college transition coaches, endurance specialists, nutrition specialists, whatever it might be, just to continually keep growing and learning and evolving.
Yeah, and like I said, there's always going to be someone out there that knows more than you. There's always, for the rest of your life, understand that.
Yeah.
And seek those people out and use those people to help you grow as an individual. If you're not doing that, you're done. You're failed already.
Yeah, what do they usually say? If you're in the room and you're the smartest guy, then you're in the wrong room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're 100%. Oh, surround yourself around smart people, people that know more than you, because you can only grow from there and get better at what you want to accomplish.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Talking about books audio. You said audiobooks. That changed my life. I'm dyslexic, so it makes it a little different. But I do read.
Are you really? Or was that a joke?
No, that's true.
Oh, I didn't know that joke because you were pretty serious. You said, "Wow, I never knew that."
Yeah. So
okay.
so for me to read, it takes me a long time to read. I like to read, and I do read a lot of books. But what just changed my life to be able to read more is the audiobook, because I can read when I'm reading at home, sitting down, but I can also get in the car. So I buy the book and then I buy the audiobook, which costs me a fucking fortune because I buy both of them all the time. But I'll pop on where I left off in the car. I get through books a lot faster by being able to read and listen at the same time. So yeah, I mean, that has changed my life. In the last 2 years, I started reading more, and why I started learning a lot more about mental strength and mental toughness, and started this podcast. For the simple fact is, reading has changed my thought process on working with individuals. Like, people can't, like I said, they can't be physically, they can't change physically until they change mentally. And I read all these books about like SEALs and people who work hard and how people got to where they are today, and successful people. And you realize it's just a different mental game for every single one of them. And the people who aren't successful, you don't hear about, and their minds are a little different. They're weak. Not they're weak. But I guess they're mentally weak, or they don't know how to actually get there to being, setting themselves up for success. And that's, again, why I started this podcast, is to help people out there to set themselves up for success, to see what people who have strong minds do to be able to be successful. And they can take some of that stuff, like I was able to take from what you were doing back in the day when everything was posted online, and make myself successful, in my gym successful. So that's kind of why I did these podcasts, is just to get content and information out there to help people. Like you said, I do believe that fitness industry is one of the only industries where people are willing to give out a lot of free content. They really are. And they'll talk with you and meet with you.
Yeah, we shoot ourselves in the foot all the time for that.
And it's crazy because I started an apparel company and trying to talk, and it hasn't even launched yet, but I am trying to get like advice from people who are, have been in it, kind of doing the same type of thing that I'm doing, bringing my apparel company towards the goal of what I'm trying to do. Like, and it's like, nobody wants to give you the time of day. It's like you're trying to pull teeth to talk to somebody, but I'll call up somebody in the fitness industry and pick their brain for 20 minutes. It'll be like, and I don't even know the person.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's like, no one ever has a problem with it.
Right.
And that's why I always say CrossFit or fitness coaches in general, they're just so undervalued, because we're willing to give up a lot more time than we'll charge for, because we went in this to help people. If you're a fitness professional, if you're good at it, you went in it to help people, and you're always trying to help people, and you're not always chasing the dollar. The money comes, you're always chasing to help somebody. Right. And that's, again,
if you're chasing the dollar, then those are the people who don't become successful. And then at some point, it's like, understanding, all right, I am providing a service, so I still need to make sure I'm not getting away with it even free. It's like that fine line.
That's always the hard part. You're always juggling, especially when you're, like I said, a fitness professional. I mean, because you went into it to try to help people, but at the same time, you still have to keep the doors open.
Right.
Talk to me a little bit about, actually, I don't know much about it, but Power Monkey Fitness, or Power Monkey Training, correct? It's a camp.
Yeah, so Power Monkey Camp is...
So what do you do? What's your role in that?
So the idea of Power Monkey actually stemmed from one of my coaches who isn't here anymore, Colin Gary.
Okay.
So Colin, his brother is a gymnast, best friend Dave Durante was one of the best gymnasts. He was on the Olympic team, coach at Stanford, etc. One day, I think like 6 or 7 years ago, we had Chad Vaughn up here doing a seminar. And Colin was like, gymnastics and weightlifting, like, that's everything in CrossFit. Like, you got to be a gymnast and you got to be a weightlifter. And he goes, Dave, who was an Olympian, and Chad, who was an Olympian, should do a camp together. Yeah. It's like just bring the two best of the worlds together. So that's kind of how Power Monkey started. And then Dave and Chad got together and kind of launched a few things. And then Dave, in the gymnastics world, they do lots of like camp retreats. We do like a week-long camp or whatnot. And like gymnasts will come in from all over the world, do camps with the best coaches in the world. So Dave was like, we should do that for like fitness, for CrossFit. So there's this camp that goes on 2 times a year in Tennessee, and they bring in these amazing coaches. They bring in all these Olympic gymnasts. They're bringing Olympic rowers. They have Chad and his crew for the weightlifting. We're bringing in different talks, different specialists. Chris Henshaw's in there, and it's a week long, and it's pretty much all day of just seminars and learning. And then I go in there and I do a programming lecture, and I do some workouts with them as well during that week. So my involvement in there is I work with Tom Monkey a lot. I do lots of their programming lectures. So
yeah. Now you're big into energy systems, correct? Like programming different.
Yeah, I think you can say that's a component of what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's your major like focus with a lot of the athletes? I mean, as I watch, I see a lot of like that. You know, before it was more of an endurance type of CrossFit style. No.
Yeah.
Like talking a lot about rowing and a lot.
Yeah. So I think CrossFit itself is an endurance sport. You know, and you do need to have great strength in it, but again, you need to have proper balance for everything. I think I just found throughout the years that I kind of lean towards energy system work when looking to develop the endurance component for CrossFit, whether that's from a mixed modal standpoint or a monostructure standpoint. Yeah. I'll lend to that. Just have better progress with heart rate monitor, you know, burnout, monitoring fatigue factors and whatnot.
What do you train more of with these guys? Anaerobic or aerobic? What do you think? Do you need a fine balance, or do you think anaerobic's gonna kind of help more if you start working anaerobic capacity a little more?
So for me, it all depends on the athlete. Everyone kind of does like their own specialized format based off what they need from the testing that I have them go through. So, you know, if we look out here, it's a bunch of noise on the background, but you have two athletes. One athlete's more power dominant, one athlete's more aerobically fit, right? Yeah. So the father athlete, Carolyn, she's more of a weightlifter. She's more aerobic. Yeah. Because she can hit anything really good for like 3 minutes under. Yeah. Brittany, who's more kind of aerobically dominant, she'll hit up more kind of power work, more kind of lactic work and format. So I think depending on the athlete dictates the percentage they need to go between the lactic stuff, the anaerobic alactic stuff, and then from there you get into your like maximum oxygen consumption and aerobic threshold and anaerobic threshold up. Yep. I think about to summarize it though, the most dominant people are the ones that have a really high anaerobic threshold. So the VO2s are VO2s, right? It's like a vertical jump.
Absolutely.
But if you can increase the percentage of the threshold compared to the VO2, like that's when you get really good at CrossFit. So summarizing, we focus a lot on that to make sure we're able to bring that up. Yep. And then obviously the strength parameters change as well based off who the athletes are and what their dominance is and what their non-dominance is and their imbalance is, and et cetera. So
yeah, I mean, it's crazy because as watching CrossFit develop, I mean, it went through its own stage, I think. It went through its aerobic stage. It went through more of an anaerobic stage. It went through a ridiculous strength stage for a while. You know, workouts with, like, at the time, 225 hang cleans and workouts were heavy, and they're ripping out 30 of them, pistols and rowing. Yeah. I remember that workout?
Yeah.
That whole regional was one of the heaviest regionals. Right. And I was like, man, if CrossFit's going to go this way, this is going to be insane to see what people can do. Yeah. I kind of went back down and toned it down a little bit to more of a balanced structure program, but it was insane, like what it's gone through. I like the way the balance of it is right now. You don't even really know. Guys now coming in, you can have athletes who are more aerobic, and you can have guys who are more powerful, you know, be able to put, you know, their training in their strengths, you know, mixing in with training. But there's never that guy who's like the strongest guy that's the best CrossFitter anymore, or the most powerful, or the guy with the best endurance. I think the program has gotten a lot better now, and it's all across the board. You really don't know. It's going to be a good competition. I mean, obviously what we see with Matt Frazier is a different story, but I mean, throughout everybody else in the field, men and women, you're seeing a good balance of athletes. You're seeing some endurance athletes who are more geared towards endurance, you know, climbing up, and you see some anaerobic and strength athletes, powerful athletes working up. So it's kind of a good mix now, where it used to, if it was strength-based, all the strength people were at the top. If it was aerobic-based, all the people were at the top who were more of like an aerobic endurance athlete. So I love the balance the way it is now. So.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's that you just can't guess. You know, I think people get in trouble. I think they can like predict what it's gonna be. Like, I remember one time I had a conversation with someone. They said dumbbells, and I was like, "Well, you better be ready for like dumbbell snatches." At like they said 50 pounds. Like, oh, they never do dumbbell snatches. Like the first opens workout, right? Yeah. It's like you have to just be really well balanced at fitness, you know, and you can't neglect any components. And you have to be powerful. You have to be quick. You have to have great endurance. You have to have a good threshold. You have to be able to do well in the lactic realm to buffer the kind of fatigue factors. You got to be strong. You got to be strong under fatigue, you know, so there's no hiding. And I think what you keep seeing is with the constant development of CrossFit and the professionalism of it as a sport, more and more coaches come in with different expertise and different knowledge to provide, and different ways to train athletes. And one thing I always say is like, there's no one right way. Like you have A and B, right? You have A of where the athlete is and you have B of where they need to be. Everything that happens in between that can be anything, you know, and the only thing that's right is if it's working for the athlete. Like whether you do, you know, French confusion or conjugate or linear periodization, whatever kind of plan you want to utilize, whether you want to do West Side, like whether you just want to do basic block, like it doesn't matter. If it's working for the athlete, then it's right.
Yeah,
you know, and I think that's where people get caught up is that there's no one dominant way. It's like understanding the response to stress in the body, understanding what the athlete needs and what they require to get from A to B, and then put it together and then assess them. If it doesn't work, reassess, right? And I think that's the beautiful thing about it is that, man, what you do is different than what I do. What I do is different than what they do. But if it works, then cool, it works. Like,
yeah. Oh, that's what I try to explain, which is awesome that you said that, because we just were talking about like, you know, games and regionals and athletes like that. But guys, this is exactly the same thing as if it's somebody who's walking through your door. You have 300 members, 250 members. Every single person is different.
Yeah.
The program might not work for that person that's working for everybody else. You have to find ways to get that program or a program to work for that individual. Nobody's going to take food in exactly the same, and their bodies aren't going to process it exactly the same. So what's working for one person, it might not work for a different person. And that's where it comes into having a good coach or a good fitness professional working with you that can identify that that's not working and try to find ways to make it work for you as an individual. And I think that's what literally is the most important. I think that's why coaches fail, because they don't understand that. I think that they think that people are going to walk in, follow their programs, and they're going to be successful. Like I told you before, some people have it mentally, just like some people can eat whatever they want and look great and have great, you know, lipid levels and feel good and have a six-pack and look great. So the same person, somebody else won't have that. You know what I mean? So everybody's different, so we have to find, and what makes a good fitness coach and a professional is understanding that, and then finding ways to help everybody out. And which makes it harder for a CrossFit, I think, or any kind of group training, is to now take all these people, find a program that's going to benefit the majority of them, okay? Because there will be programs that work, but and nutrition programs as well, and try to get all these people to follow this program the right way, but still have it all individualized for 250 people. Right. Because, you know, again, we are here to make everybody successful and help everybody. And I think the big thing about CrossFit and what makes a good CrossFit coach, and I say this all the time, or a good group fitness coach, is all about understanding that not everybody's the same, but you're still trying to build a program around everybody, but everybody's individualized, so you have to pay attention to what everybody's doing.
Yeah, dude, exactly.
You know, and I think the biggest compliment to a program is especially when we'll just say off of a strength or a performance-based program, is the person that's just walking through the doors PRing and continually growing. The person who's been there for 7 months is still growing, and the person who's been there for 8 years is still growing. Yeah. And that's a good balanced program, and that's the hardest thing, but that's what I think people need to focus more on, is testing athletes. And it takes time, because, you know, I have athletes that just test different things for me to help them grow. What we were doing now, we weren't doing 10 years ago.
Right,
you know what I mean? What we were doing 10 years ago, Jack LaLanne wasn't doing. You know, he started it, but it evolves. It's constantly evolving. And it's not evolving because some guy sat there behind, with a lab coat on and figured all this stuff out systematically. But it was a lot of trial and error. Yeah, like it does, it's the beautiful blend between science and then like human connection. Yep. Like you need science to have an understanding of the bioenergetics and the body and stress response and all that stuff. But if you know everything and you can't connect to people, then it doesn't matter what you know, because no one's gonna want to learn from you. Absolutely. So it's being able to take the science and the learning, and then have the human connection, to be able to apply it and have a basic conversation. And we talk about that a lot with our coaches, whether they're our class coaches or competitors, is that you have to have the connection with the athletes. You have to be able to understand their life and the stressors and what's going on and what their goals are and what the passion is, because what their goal is isn't what your goal is. Like your goal is to get them better, get them fitter, but their purpose and their why would be completely different. It might have nothing to do with what you could possibly think of versus other things that transpire inside their life, you know. And we do that a lot with our competitors, where like I'll watch them walk in the door, like I'll just go up and have a basic conversation with them to see like where their eyes are focused. You know, they focused on me, or they're all over the place. So they take it forever to get chalk or not. And I think even from that matter with a normal class, just when people come into the class, just tell me, hey, what's up, man? How's it going? You know,
And you have to be ready that when you say that, it might be like a whirlwind of emotions. But that's how you understand like what's going on and how you can make adjustments to continually see the progress you're talking about. And how you can make sure that someone comes in and like, you go through, Mark. Someone comes in, someone comes in, you're like, hey, like, are you having fun? Are you enjoying it? No, why? And then understanding, all right, well, is it just a deflection because they're intimidated or they're really not enjoying it? What can I do to make it better for them? And if someone's been there for a while, then, hey, man, how's everything going for you? You still getting what you need out of it? Do you need to make a change or an adjustment to kind of stay on track, to keep focus? And having those conversations is important and is what's needed.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think Dave kind of talked about this, Dave Plumey last episode. Like, do you care? Like, when you talk about your CrossFit community, right? And do you just care about the people that are walking through the door? Or you're still contacting the person who maybe didn't have the money that month and couldn't come? Are you still reaching out to them to see how they're doing? Or if someone's injured, are you still reaching out to them to try to help them out and keep getting them to move forward, even though they're not walking in your door? And everybody who's ever come through your door is part of your community. It's important to kind of keep on those people as well. But you had said, you had mentioned, as you saw, you look at the eyes of your athletes coming in. Let's talk about that quick before we wrap things up. Because what do you think is the major thing that separates them mentally compared to everybody else? Like, how does that person get to there? Because I think everybody's capable of it.
Talking about the
Competitors. I think a lot of people, I know a lot of people that are capable, physically capable of making it to that level. What do you think separates that physical ability to the next person who actually can make it to the games?
So I think a percentage of it is genetics.
Yeah.
And I think
we're talking genetics. If people are both
they
both genetically have it.
Apples and apples. Gotcha.
What do you see differently in their eyes, like in the fire that's underneath them? Like, what type of person are they? Like, are they self-motivating? Like, what type of person do you see if they're both the same genetics, and what separates that person to get to the next level? Because this is important.
I think it's like an onion. Because multiple layers.
Yeah.
You have to be extremely self-motivated.
Yeah.
You have to be selfish. You have to be willing to do anything at all costs for your goal and your purpose. Meaning, like, don't tell me you want to be good at something, but you don't get 8 hours of sleep. Don't tell me you want to be good at something, but you're not going to eat well. Or you're going to go out and be drinking every night. Or you're going to have parties or staying up late. Or you're not going to wake up early. Like, you don't want to be good. You want to think you are, but you don't. You don't need a motivational speech. So you're extremely selfish. And I say selfish in the fact of you do everything you can to put yourself in a position. Like, when I was playing basketball, all I did was play ball. I'd go to my high school at 5:30 a.m. and I'd shoot and then shower and go to homeroom. When winter came, I'd shovel the park and all the typical stories, right? But I did that. And I think in this sport, it's the same thing. Like, you're going to sleep well. You're going to eat right. You're going to eat enough food. You're going to hydrate. You're going to stay away from things you should stay away from. You're going to do the little things, and you don't have to be told to do that. You're going to take care of your body. You're going to take care of your mind, and you're going to take care of your social life. Because if you don't have the balance, then you're going to blow up. So I think that's one layer. I think the second layer is motivation. I see lots of people saying, like, motivational speeches, and my philosophy is if you need a motivational speech and you're not truly motivated, because that will last for like 5 minutes and you're like, oh yeah, gun ho.
You'll go back to being unmotivated again, right? Because you're just constantly looking for that.
Right. So I think you have the selfishness, you have the intrinsic motivation. So I think those are two layers. And I think the third layer is just you have this growth mind state instead of a fixed mind state. And you look at this as children as well, right? You don't view everything as a definite meaning. It's right or wrong, right? It's good or bad. You're able to accept the gray area and learn from it and grow from it. If you don't do well, okay, how can I learn from it? How can I grow from it? So I think when you have too much of a fixed mind state, you get performance anxiety. You have fear of failure because if you don't win, you're a failure and then you suck, right? So I think it's this mind state, and most people have that. It's like a nature versus nurture aspect, but you can adjust it. So you have those three layers. You have the mindset, which is a lot what you talked about, right? You have the selfishness, right? And then you have the motivation. And I think the last thing is you have the ability to compete. And I think you need all those layers because I've seen plenty of people, and I've worked with plenty of people who have crazy amounts of talent, and are just so good, but once the lights come on and they get out onto the floor, they can't compete well.
Yeah.
And I've saw in basketball too, people who had like could shoot the lights out and could put their head on the basketball hoop and could dribble like crazy, but once the game come on, like they freeze and they shut down.
Yep.
And other people weren't that good, but once the lights come
shine.
on, they're like, whoa, where'd this guy come from, right?
Yep.
So I think you have to have all those different layers, you know, and I think when you can, and I don't think all those layers can be coached.
Yeah.
I don't. I think like
you don't think any of them could be coached?
I think a lot of them can.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them can, but I think some of them can get so far with it, right? And then from there, it's like, all right, well, now you got to do it on your own, you know?
Absolutely.
And you look at
you have to have that do factor.
Yeah. Like
at the end of the day, it's
look at like Jordan. Like, was Jordan the most athletic person on the ball? No, not at all. He wasn't the most athletic. He wasn't the best, but he had all those to such like a 10th degree that he made himself be the best.
Yeah.
You know, and I think to be a competitor, you got to have those different layers.
I see a lot with competitors. I think the fear of failure is a big thing for a lot of people. People don't. I see it in any sport, actually.
Yeah.
I don't think people want to look bad. They just want to look good.
Right.
They're afraid to fail. You find that with just normal people coming through the gym, you know, with like a fitness program or nutrition program. Like they're just afraid to fail. And because of that fear, they quit.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to look bad in front of their peers.
Right.
You know, and I think that's where you lose some people, whether it's a nutrition program, because they make themselves feel like a failure. And I think the failure part of it actually ruins a lot of people.
Yeah,
more
and
than
I think that goes back to that fix or growth mindset, you know, just like in Nielsen. I've seen it too where people will think that they're not afraid, but they are. And I see it like, because one thing I try to do is I try to put people in like a fire pit situation, like a one-on-one, like back against the wall, like let me see what you got. And you can see if they're going to fight through it or not. And it's like, so you can see if they're like, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to not lose. And if I lose, it's okay. I'll learn from it. But I'm going to give it my all to make sure I don't, right? And I've seen it with other athletes where like, oh yeah, like they think they have it, and then they get in that situation, and you see them kind of like hold the throttle a little bit, right? You kind of they hold back just a little bit because they give themselves an out. Oh well, if I don't win or it doesn't happen, I can say, well, I didn't really push that hard because I was a little tired, right? Well, I could have done better. No, you have now. All you have is now. You don't have tomorrow. You don't have yesterday, right? You have now in this moment in this life, and make the most of it right now. And that's what I want to see from athletes. Like if you're in this situation, your back's against the wall, what are you going to do? Are you going to give it your all? And if you don't come out, be like, okay, but I gave it my all. And if you give it your all effort, then you're a competitor. Then you're going to be excellent. But if you hold back, so you give yourself that out, right? Then it's like, well, no, you're not.
Yeah, I believe when you give it your all, the satisfaction, whether you didn't succeed or you did succeed, if you gave it everything you got, it was a success in your mind. And you knew that was everything you had, and it still had that chemical reaction happen in your brain that made you feel good because you knew that you left everything out there.
Right.
Where you see someone who is good, but like you said, doesn't give it their all, they still don't have that self-satisfaction because in their mind, they know they didn't do it. They didn't give it everything they had. And I think that's what really separates people, which I'm glad you touched on that, because I think that's a huge thing is people just, the more you give it, whether you've been successful or you failed, the more that you put into it. If you give it everything you had, you will come out on top successful in the end. It may take a little while, but you will grow and continually grow and be better off for it.
Right. And like, everything is just opportunity. It's opportunity to be better. It's opportunity to learn. It's opportunity to grow. But if you don't view it as that, and you view it as like right or wrong, good or bad, then you're not going to make it, right? Because it's just about your effort you're put forth. Like,
everything is effort. I posted this the other day. You can't control anything. I'm going to leave off with this. The only thing that is controllable is the effort that you give.
Right.
You can't control most of anything that goes around, goes on around you. You can't control any outside factors. You can control the effort that you give every single day. And if you put forth the best effort, you will come out on top every single day.
Absolutely.
And that's all that matters.
That's awesome.
Jay?
Dude, this is great.
Brother,
Thanks,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm pumped that you came on the show, man. I was really looking forward to it.
Hell yeah.
I was hoping you weren't going to turn me down. And
come on.
I know. You never know, though.
Yeah,
but again, like we talked about in the beginning,
Yeah.
in this industry, what I love about it is you can reach out to anybody, and in this industry, someone's willing to talk to you and give you some feedback.
This is awesome.
Thanks for being on the show, and I hope the listeners learn something.
Yeah, hopefully
I think
they just ramble.
I learned something from you too. So as long as I'm learning, I'm happy.
This is awesome. Thanks again, dude.
Jay, thank you.
All right, cool. Bye.